In the cults that tortured me and other kids, silence was the price we paid for our lives. Silence was the absolute. And they reinforced this constantly with threats of death, with bringing us to the point of death by stopping our hearts or strangling us or drowning us and then bringing us back, or making us think that they had killed us by drugging us, paralyzing us, and making mock funerals or burying us. And each time that they would bring us back, saying things like it was only through the power of them that we were alive, and we always had to make sure that we did not remember, that we did not talk, that they made parts of us that they created, or that they split off, or that they reformed with the dissociative identity, make sure that their only job was to keep us from remembering and keep us from talking. And they would teach us over and over and over that no one believed us. No one would believe us if we talked, that everybody would think that we were crazy, that we were making it up, that we were lying. They told us that we were lying, we were hallucinating. They would gaslight us. They would also create abuse scenarios where they would torture us, and then there would be like the other mother or the other father who's like pretending to be kind and caring and compassionate and pretending to reassure us, and then tell us what happened. And then you tell them, and then they torture us and they murder another kid or another person in front of us because we talked, reinforcing over and over and over that there is no safety, if we ever talk, other people will be killed, or that we will end up killing them through talking. Another way that they reinforce that is by telling us that we are poisoning or hurting or traumatizing people when we talk, that we are slowly killing them, that we are slowly poisoning them by our speaking truth. And then they do elaborate abuse scenarios about that, including for me, because I was still being tortured for most of my life when I had a therapist, making abuse scenarios where they would pretend that it was her and pretend like they would torture her and show that, like, if I spoke, that it was then hurting and killing her, or they would pretend to kill her. So many elaborate abuse scenarios around silence, because that is what allows the cult to continue the torture, the murder, the ongoing rape, the trafficking of us as kids and teens and even adults, the child pornography. It allows them to continue what they love, what they enjoy, what gets them off, but also that gains them money and power in society and within the cult. And almost everything they do goes back to staying quiet, not remembering, not talking, or we die or someone else dies. They would even do things like, after killing someone, before they do other gross things, like sewing up the lips or forcing us to sew up the lips and showing us that this is what happens when you talk and here's the punishment, or pretending that they killed someone because they had talked, and torture over and over and over for even if we think about talking, or if we tell them. So they reinforce repeatedly through the cult torture that we are not safe, that we will die, that someone else will die if we ever talk, if we ever remember. And it makes it so hard to remember and to talk. And then we have our society that already doesn't believe sexual abuse survivors, sexual assault survivors, and then you get into cult torture where it is so horrific and extreme that people don't want to believe, and it makes it even harder to talk and to have people who will actually hear and listen and believe. But when we do speak out and we see that no one is getting murdered for it, and when we're safe now, that like we're not getting tortured for it anymore, it is huge and powerful when people actually believe us and hear us and respond with compassion and empathy, because that compassion and empathy cuts through all the mind control and the hate, and it shows us that healing is possible and we are safe, and that is so powerful. And when we speak out, even if we're just telling one friend or our therapist, it helps them also in the future be better with other survivors, and maybe makes room for other survivors too. And that is also powerful. The cults that tortured me and other kids in this way were intergenerational, interconnected KKK, Nazi, and satanic cults. They don't go and get members from outside in the world. We are born into the cult, and then they torture us from birth or even in utero. I was not a member. I did not have a choice. I was being tortured from birth, and I fought against them my entire life. And it took me my entire life to actually get safe. I ran away so many times, and they would bring me back and torture me more. But these cults, they are far more common than most people want to believe or think. I think they are in most every country. They seem to be interconnected. But survivors speaking out makes change. It makes healing change.